Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe the Hawks episode. So today on the pod, we got some news coming out from Shams saying the Hawks would be suitors if the Mavericks wanted to trade Anthony Davis. We're going to talk about, would that be a good move? Should the Hawks consider it? And I obviously love to hear you guys' thoughts on that as well. We're going to talk about also in that report, Trae Young says that he is confident, or at least in the report that Shams put out, says that he feels like he will be back this month for the Hawks, which would be a much-needed boost, as the Hawks feel like he can boost those core players like Nikhil, Okongwu, Jalen have already been playing well in his absence. And then we'll also go into Dyson Daniels' struggles. I know that's been a big topic for people. I'll give my thoughts on his struggles as the season has gone on, and kind of just go from there, man. So I appreciate you guys tuning in for another Believe in Hawks for sure. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Audio listeners, leave 5 stars on the pod. Always appreciate all the love and support that you guys give the kid. Follow me on X at Brycey_2K if you want to keep with me there. Talk to me there about some Hawks as well. And yeah, so that's kind of the main gist of it. But let's go ahead and dive into it. So, like I said, Shams brought out, hey, he was like, hey, listen. Hawks would be one of 3 teams that would be interested in Anthony Davis if he was available. Obviously, that is a question that people are going to have with the Mavericks having a down year. They could look to get some assets back for Davis. There's also apparently a chance that they may also extend him. So that's not a guarantee as well that he will be even traded or even put in trade talks. But the Hawks were mentioned as one of 3 teams. And so I've already seen debate already today about should the Hawks do it, right? And pretty much this debate centers around Kristaps Porzingis and AD. A lot of people so far this season when it comes to KP has not been happy with his availability because he's been out with some injuries. He's also been not playing back-to-backs. Hawks are trying to manage the illness he has. The illness that he just had, he said, wasn't that illness. It was another illness. But I know people have been frustrated with his availability, right? And when you think about AD, we know he's the better player between the two. He will be, especially defensively. Defensively, you're getting a all NBA defender in the front lines with AD, right? And then offensively, he's giving you just as much, if not more, than what KP gives you. So it's an upgrade for sure. But the problem is the same thing what you would say with KP. He can't stay healthy. He has been injury prone the majority of his career. Now, I believe in the last 90% of games in the last, I don't know the exact number, but essentially towards the end of his Lakers run, he was healthy the majority of it. But again, you just don't know with AD. You know, he'll play and then he'll just have a groin. He'll have a knee. He'll have an ankle. He'll have something. And then he'll be out 2-3 weeks. And that is the frustration. So essentially, if you make the move, first, AD doesn't like playing center, so he'd have to be a center, which he doesn't. He's been on record saying he does not like playing it, and he feels like he can't be the best version of himself playing center. But if you trade for him and you're trading KP, well, Jalen Johnson's not moving to center, so he would have to be the center, right? Literally why he got traded from LA is because he literally told LA, I need a center. That's talking back before, and they were like, no. So that would be the question with Anthony, right? Because like I said, talent-wise, he's better than KP. We know that. So this is where it gets into the next level of this discussion. The Hawks have created this financial flexibility to be able to make moves like this, right? KP is on an expiring deal, 1 year, I think $30 million, right? So it's going to come off the books, or you sign to an extension. Those are the 2 options you have. I think AD is north of $45 million the next 2 years. So you're going to have to give up more money to bring in Anthony Davis. And then he may also, I think he's eligible for an extension as well. So that also would be a conversation. Do you want to extend Anthony Davis, where I think they said if you extend him the normal max, he would be 37 at the end of it, 38. With a guy who's had injuries like him, I don't know if financially that's something you want. But the Hawks have allowed themselves the opportunity to make a decision like that. It's interesting that we have been named as a suitor. I don't know Shams' sources. I know some people think Shams can be questionable at times. But it's one of those things that I think with the assets that the Hawks have, anytime there's any type of big name player, I think the Hawks are going to be mentioned because the Hawks could make a deal because they have the assets for a lot of teams to make a deal. So you've created this financial flexibility. The question is, and y'all can answer this in the comments, would you want to give up part of that financial flexibility for Anthony Davis? Some people are able to sell themselves on it because they're like, if he is healthy, the Hawks will be favorites in the East. Like, if he's healthy, he'll be great. Now, obviously, the big question is, how do Jalen and Anthony Davis play together? The thing about Giannis is that Giannis and Jalen play the same position, right? And they kind of do the same things. AD doesn't necessarily do the same thing as Jalen, but it's more of, okay, Jalen's more of a slasher, point forward, attack the paint. AD kind of can roam around the three-point line, but also you probably want him in the paint. So you'd have to figure out, okay, how does that mesh? That's the thing about these bigs. How do they mesh? How do they mesh with Jalen's game? We as Hawks have seen that at least Okongwu has meshed very well with Jalen. That's why all numbers indicate positive net rating, positive offensive rating, positive defensive rating when they're on the floor. They just work very well together. Their games match. That's something you always think about when you build these teams. How do their games match up? How do they come together? And how does it affect chemistry if you do make a move like that, right? And I'm more on the side of I'd rather stay put. And my reasoning for that is when you're building something like the Hawks are, sometimes people get impatient and you get a little greedy and you want to say, screw it, let's go. Let's move it. Let's space it. And there's going to be some people who are watching this and thinks the Hawks should make this move. Screw it. Who's going to come to Atlanta? There's no free agent going to come to Atlanta. Go ahead, do it. Make the move. Give up the assets. Now, obviously, in saying that, the Hawks are not giving up that 2026 pick. So they're going to have that if they trade for AD. They're not giving that up for AD. It would be more of the 2027 first that they would give up. But that's how some people are going to view it. Me, I'm like, sometimes you go too fast, and then that's what messes up the entire process of the team. I've said the thing where the Hawks are right now is that the Hawks have this group, and we don't know what the ceiling of this group is. We don't have those answers. It's kind of the same thing I said with Giannis. I was like, well, we don't have those answers yet. So making a move like this, you're saying that we're willing to not get that answer because we think that we are very much in the belief that if we make this move, it will actually get us above whatever the last group is. And it's easy to think that way because he's one of the best players in the world. Why wouldn't he? AD is a different situation because he's still a top 5, top 10 talent. But again, if you trade him for KP, how many games is AD going to play? Because here's the thing. You're essentially going to be in the same situation where Okongwu, Asa, Mo, and Jalen are going to have to still play probably a lot of games together because we can't count on AD being healthy. And here's the thing, too. KP has an expiring deal. So, like I said, if they don't work out, you can move off KP. AD, if it don't work, like you have to trade AD. Like you can't just cut him. He has years left on his contract. So it's not as easy to get off. Like that to me would signal like, all right, another like kind of an all-in move, I guess, because you're essentially committed to AD now, unless again you're going to trade him in a year, which then it's just like AD gets traded every year. And where is his value going to be in a year? Are you going to be potentially able to get what you give him? Are you going to get that back? Is his value going to be the same year? Because if you're trading him near, that probably means he's not healthy and accept the same storyline as followed his entire career. So it's interesting. I get it. Honestly, the trade for Giannis, I would be more on board with it. AD, I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just a risk. And essentially, you're going to have two players who, are going to be hurt. As far as we know, AD's going to be hurt. If he stays healthy, you would do the trade. If AD was known to be a healthy player, do the trade. Absolutely. But because he's not known as that, that's where the hesitation comes in. Because it's like, if I do this and he isn't healthy, how does this set the franchise back? How does this hurt the future? How does this hurt the young talent? How does that hurt what we've been trying to build at this very moment? When you like I always look at Oklahoma City's model. They allowed themselves to build. They got to a certain point. Okay, we need to add something here. They got to another point. Okay, we need to add something here. And then they're a championship dominant team because they allowed themselves to go through the process. They didn't make any rash moves. They stockpiled draft picks. They've been good at evaluating talent, and they've built. All right. If you try to rush the process like the Suns did a year ago or last couple of years for this season, there is a chance that it's not going to work, and then you pretty much ruin your future. And now there's other decisions we got to start talking about. So that's just my thoughts on AD. I love to hear you guys' thoughts. Like, what do you think about the AD trade? Should the Hawks go after? Do you feel comfortable going after him? The most common trade package I see is like KP and Luke Kennard in the 2027 first and maybe another first on top of that. And people are like, that's the best I'm giving you. I'm not giving up Azanul. I'm not giving up Dyson Daniels. I'm not giving up any of my young core for AD. That just, I'm not doing it for him. I get for Giannis. I'm not doing it for AD. That's just me. But yeah, leave me comments down below about what you think. So that takes me into my next topic. Trae Young. He was also mentioned in the Shams post that Trae Young is optimistic that he will play this month. He will come back this month. Trae's been nursing that sprained MCL that's kept him out. The Hawks still feel very highly about him and with the core. People have been kind of like, there's been discussion all year. Should we trade Trae? Should we keep him? And I've said this, and I think the regime's going to stick to this. They want to see Trae Young with this team to know the answer. They want that answer. What is this team with Trae Young? They're not going to just fast forward it and never get that answer. Because here's the thing I've always said to people. If you trade Trae this year, what are we trading him for? If you trade Trae, you do realize, even if we're a playoff team, like there's no expectation to go far, really, I think, for a lot of people. Because we've documented the issues this team has. And unless we're getting a high-level-ish guard back to kind of replace him, I don't see that being effective. And then you're all going to complain when Keaton Wallace is playing playoff minutes because what are the point guards we got, brother? So I think the Hawks are going to see it through with Trae this year, and then we'll see what happens this offseason. I think the Hawks are fully content with we'll see what happens. Because the thing is, they've built a good enough roster core that it's not a situation where you don't have a lot of valuable assets and then you have a star that might leave. And then you might need to consider trading that star to get assets. The Hawks have assets with Trae. So if you trade Trae, you're getting more assets, but you're also trying to take that next step in winning games. So, how is getting more assets getting you a step closer to winning games? Because, again, there is no guarantee that pick that we have for the Pelicans-Bucks is going to be top 3. And if you do move off Trae Young, there's no guarantee. Even if it's top 3, if it's 3, there's a decent chance you're not getting Darren Peterson. He's probably going to go top 2. So then there's too much risk to try to say we're going to hope for that. You need to know with Trae Young if he's the guy. And this stretch of Trae Young's career is probably his most important stretch as a player here because of the fact that the team's in playoff position. The East, I will mention things about these. People have crapped on the East for years. The East has been the little brother to the West. The East isn't as competitive. The East is very competitive this year. The 9th seed, which is us, is 3 games over 500. A very competitive conference this year. So we're looking like you could win 48 games and still be a 7th seed this year. It's looking like that type of conference this year for us. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of season left. Western Conference could flip that back. But this looks like, some people said Hawks win 50 games. 50 games in your conference this year may be a 6th seed, a 5th seed. That may not mean you're top 3 like it has in previous years. So this stretch for the Hawks is very important to see how he plays with Jalen, to see how he plays. How does he help Dyson and Zach and their struggles they've had? How does he help them? Okongwu, KP, all those things. The thing is that the Hawks feel like Trae Young can maximize that talent. Y'all worry about defense, And oh my God, if he comes back, we're not going to be able to stop nobody. And I'm like, I promise to God, guys, one guy is not single-handedly destroying this defense. We've had defensive issues without him on the floor. We've had defensive issues the last 2-3 weeks without him. So can we still, we have to kill that argument. You can't, I feel like it's just game by game basis, matchups and etc. That's what it's based on. We'll have to see. But the offense, there's no denying what he's going to bring to this offense. There's no denying he'll help in the fourth quarter. He'll help in close situations. He'll help create easier shots for guys who may have been struggling offensively. He'll do all of that. And so I think we need to be fair with Trae when he comes back and let him show us. Because I know what some of y'all are going to do. Trae going to come back. He don't have a great game because he's working his way back. Because that's the thing. Trae has to work his way back. He's not just going to be 30 points out the gate. I mean, he could, but I'm not going to be projecting that, especially because I don't think the Hawks feel like he needs to do that. But y'all may see him have an inefficient day and think, well, Trae Young's back. We suck. Oh, my God. He's back to ruining games for us. And it's like, can the brother get back to normal, please? Can he? Trae Young, you have to understand, the rest of the team is ahead of Trae right now. They've been playing for over a month. Month and a half now. Trae's played, 5 games? 4.5? He has to catch up. Right? So we got to give him that ability to. When he comes back, I do expect to boost offensively. We'll see how the defense is impacted. We'll see how they are able to hold up there. Obviously, the Hawks so far have kind of been their healthiest they've been in the last few years. And so that's been the big part of it, is that guys are healthy and playing. You've had guys step up. Jalen Johnson's taking that next step. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's taking that next step. They've been great. I'm curious to see how they integrate those guys with Trae. I think Jalen and Trae playing together is not going to be an issue. I've seen some people talk about usage, like Trae can't lure his usage. Believe it is. I do not think Trae Young's going to sit here and look at what he's seen with Jalen and say, I want to get the ball out of his hands. If they want to run stuff with Jalen as the point guard, I think Trae will very volunteer. I think Trae will do that. I don't think Trae's going to get pushback. He will play off ball. I do not see that being an issue. A part of off ball Trae is having another guy who can play make for you. And Jalen can do that for people. So I think that they'll work fine together. They have a plus Nick rating when they're on the floor together. So again, there's not a lot of statistics that you can show me that shows Trae and Jalen don't play well together and they can't play well together. But some people are going to say that just because they think, well, with Jalen's ascension, Trae's going to keep him from being that way. We don't know that. We have no idea if that's the case. So I wouldn't say that. Nickeil is going to be Nickeil may be impacted more because he is going back to the bench, essentially. But I've said that I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to close games for the Hawks over Zach, just because I think he's the better player than Zach. And I think if he's cooking, I don't see how you don't finish games. And they're just going to close with Trae, Dyson, Nickeil, Jalen, and then KP or Congo, depending on the day. So Trae Young is nearing his return. They have some days off. He'll get reevaluated this Saturday. We'll see if he's back that next week. That would be when I would think he would return. And then we'll see what this team looks like with their franchise player pack. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that, obviously, when that happens. But that kind of brings me into my next topic about Dyson Daniels, because Dyson's been, he has been someone who has faced a lot of heat. Obviously, he signed that new contract extension for the year. So obviously there's a new spotlight on him. He's put himself in the spotlight with the things he did last year, especially defensively, steals, first team, all defense, second in defensive player of the year. Put himself in most improved and put himself in the spotlight. And I think, offensively this year, I think has been a journey for him. He hasn't been as effective and as efficient as people thought. I think people were surprised how good offensively he was his first year. And so when you look at that, the contract, the awards, everything, you probably came into the season thinking Dyson Daniels was going to give you more. And the thing is, we weren't expecting Dyson to be 20-point a game score, but you just thought Dyson's going to give you a little bit more offensively, maybe improve his shot. Well, that hasn't happened. Shot's gotten worse. I don't know what happened with his training that maybe has made him more uncomfortable. Sometimes we've heard these players go to trainers they'll tell them to change their shot, and now the player's uncomfortable with the shot because that's not a shot they've had. The biggest thing you always try to do is take a player's natural release and then try to fix it mechanically. Like, is there a mechanic we can fix? I don't know if whatever he was doing this offseason, they just tried to change his shot completely. And so now it's uncomfortable for him. He doesn't get a lot of lift on his threes. And then there's been times where he'll miss some monies. And I know that was frustrating at the beginning of the year for people. He was missing a lot of layups at the rim. And et cetera. So, I am very curious when Trae Young gets back, how he impacts Dyson offensively. Because, one thing about Trae is he's an offensive engine. So, he can create easier looks. A lot of the stuff that's been happening with Dyson, it's been a little bit harder. I think everybody's acknowledged, offense has been a little bit harder without Trae. But at the same time, I think this time without Trae has helped them become more confident in those moments. And I think the biggest criticism I think people have with Dyson is that they feel like in these moments, there are times where he doesn't look confident. He's not looking at the rim. He's not being aggressive. Listen, and the Hawks have implored him to take the shot if it's there because they're probably looking at, this is a double-edged sword mindset because I get why people hate it. You're asking someone who doesn't shoot the ball well to shoot it, but I also get it because you're trying to get him confident in the shot. For the Hawks, the biggest thing they want to give to all their players is confidence. I want you to be confident taking your shots because confidence can also be one of the biggest parts of you making shots. If you're not confident taking a shot, you're going to miss a lot of them. That's the issue with Ben Simmons. There was no confidence in his shot. So he wasn't going to take because there was no confidence. Even though there were times where he would sometimes take it and he would make it and you're like, brother, I think you can hit threes. It's just for some reason you were mentally telling yourself you can't. And I think that's the big thing is that the Hawks don't want him to become Ben Simmons and not take it. No, take it. Now, obviously, offense and some people have now gotten to this point where now they're saying Dyson is a liability. I don't agree with that. The thing about Dyson, I've said this multiple times on the podcast, his value isn't just offensively. His value is everything that he does. He is one of the only guards on this team who will crash the boards, which the Hawks need. He has improved as a playmaker. He is still the team's probably best defender. That is value that to me isn't changing. His offense will vary game to game. And I think that's just how it is. He's not Andre Roberson, where you're getting a 3, maybe a dunk a game, and that's it. Dyson has put up 20-point games, 18, 16-point games up this year. He can give you a good offensive game. He just isn't right now with his offense going to do it consistently. And there's going to be a lot of games where he'll just score 8 to 10 points. But he'll give you 8 rebounds, 6 assists, couple of steals, things of that nature. Because I know that's kind of people talked about in the closing lineup. Maybe we should replace Dyson with Nikhil. And I've said, no, I don't think they would do that because of what I just mentioned. And then also, I think for them, they're looking at, because I know people have had a big discussion about Zach and Zachary Shea's not finishing games. He needs those reps. At the end of the day, I've said this multiple times. Hawks trying to win games. If Zach is fumbling and stumbling and mumbling, why are we keeping him out there in the fourth quarter? When I could put Nickeil Alexander-Walker out there and have Dyson, where I have 2 of my best defenders. They also can, listen, they can play make. Nickeil, with Nickeil's offensive progression, he is probably now, he's the 4th option in that situation, but he's a pretty darn good 4th option. Zach in that situation is he might hit a big 3. He did before, so I'm not saying he can't, but Zach, it truly depends on the game. If he's playing well that game, you can go with Zach. If he is giving you what he's gave you the last couple of games, single-digit scoring games, I don't see how you can justify that and say he needs to finish games. He has barely gave you anything offensively. And then he's not the same impact defender that Dyson is, so it's not like his defense is even warranting him being on the floor in that situation. It's not like, well, he's such a great defender or disruptive defender that he should be on the floor for that too. And the last thing if you're the Hawks, the last thing you want is Dyson struggling offensively and Zach struggling offensively. And now it's essentially Jalen Trae, KP Okongwu. That's it offensively for you. Nikhil was a guy who has shown confidence to say, I can go in there and take a big shot if you need me to. I'll take that big jumper. I'll drive to the paint. I'll take that big three. And I think the Hawks are like kind of what we need in those situations. So I think Dyson, we just have to keep in mind Dyson can do other things. I think sometimes we do this. He does all those other things, but he's not scoring for us. So I don't know if he's that good. Or, like we've done with like Krejci sometimes. Like the reason why Krejci has been such a revelation for this team is that he now is hitting the three at such a high clip. This brother takes 5 threes. He can make 4. That's 12 points. He can make 5. That's 15. He makes 6. That's 18. And all he did was take 6, 7 shots that game. But he puts them up. If he misses those threes, we're going to be like, oh, the problem with Krejci is, if he ain't hitting threes, he can't really give you anything else. I mean, listen, I wish every NBA player was perfect. They're not. If Krejci hits threes, we know it hurts us. If he hits threes, it helps us a lot. It's just part of the game, plus and minuses. You hope every game he hits threes, so then it helps you. If he doesn't, you got to learn how to work through it. Simple as that. But, yeah. So, I mean, overall for Dyson, I hope he kind of can just, the biggest thing for him is I'm not expecting an offensive jump. I just want him to find consistency. Find his role, consistency, and just do that. And then if he can, every blue moon, give us a bigger game, great. And listen, it's the NBA. You're going to have bad games. Dyson's going to have bad games. It's just part of it. Because I think when we do this thing where he'll have 18 points, oh, he played well tonight. Then he'll have a bad game. Wow, his offense has been just so bad this year. I'm like, brother, his man Andre Roberson, he's not Thabo Sefolosha. All right? Like, he can give you a little bit more than them offensively, but you're not putting Dyson in the game to say, give me 20. If he can give you 20, it's super fantastic. But that's not like a requirement / we need that from him. Especially when you have Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis, Yuka Kongwu, Nikhil Alexander. Like the need for Dyson's offense to be great isn't as great. Last year was more important because when Jalen went down, your best offensive player was like Trae, then Harris LeVert. Like, I mean, that was your number 2 guy. Now I can name you 3 players better than Harris LeVert now, offensively. So now Dyson doesn't have to be this great scorer. I think we feel it more now because Trae's not there and we need his offense to replace what Trae is not giving us with him being out. So I'm curious to see what happens when he gets back, but we'll have to see. And then I'll leave off with this point. I know people have been talking about Azanul. Played really well against the Wizards. People think he needs to get more playing time. I've said multiple times. Hawks have 4 good bigs in front of him. And honestly, it's great to know if you lose one of them, you got another big that's very capable coming off the bench. Some people wonder if that's going to take from Mo. I said it really just depends on what Quinn values. Defensively, Mo is much better than Aza. But offensively, it seems like Aza, at least as a shooter, is better than Mo. And then he plays with a lot of energy. Honestly, I think them both playing together works. But there's just not a lot of opportunity for that unless one of the top bigs are out, right? And I think that he'll be a really good player for us. I think she's surprised a lot of people. I never really talked about a lot leading up to the draft, but I always heard his name. I went back, watched some film, looked at him. I said, I mean, I see something here with him, but I said when we drafted him, I said, literally, bro, the way we play, I think he fits with the way we want to play. And I think that's something that they've, very much emphasized with this regime is like, hey, we want guys who fit the way we want to play. Y'all worried about can he create his own shot? And it's like, brother, can he be a transition big? Can he rebound? Can he shoot? If the answer is yes, he fits what we're trying to do. So I do want to give him his flowers. He's played well. And we'll like I said, the big situation is ever evolving, but it's a good problem to have. You have a lot of depth in your front court. That's not something we should be mad about. And I think that will be interesting how we continue to move forward with him. And just his development, because he's played Skyhawks and he'll play for us as well. So we'll have to see. But I think that's about it for me today on the podcast, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Leave a 5-star rating for listening to audio. Available on any audio platform out there for podcasts. You can catch Believe in the Hawks. Follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K as well. And obviously, like I said, leave your comments down below. What do you think about Anthony Davis? Would you make a move? Would you not? What would you give up? Trae Young, like I said, I guess, hey, do you think Trae Young will help this team, or do you think they will hurt this team? And then also Dyson Daniels struggles, I got to see what happens when Trae gets back. Obviously, I just want to find consistency, and we'll see what happens. But I think overall, I think that's about it for me, guys. And I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. This is your brother, Sluice. See you next time.